This is ChoWorld. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell. The establishment of a strategic manufacturing joint venture between Joby Aviation and Toyota Motor Corporation is not simply an expansion of cooperation. It can be interpreted as a strong signal that Toyota has considerable confidence in Joby's FAA certification progress, especially the latter part of Stage 4, Stage 5, and the possibility of entering TIA. Before we begin, let me first clarify the terminology. The TIA test refers to the core test that corresponds to Stage 5, Show and Verify, among the 5 stages of FAA certification that Joby refers to. Stage 4 refers to testing and analysis, meaning the testing and analysis stage. Although the establishment of this joint venture does not yet mean that Joby's FAA Stage 4 has been officially completed, according to Joby's Q1 2026 shareholder letter, Stage 4, the testing and analysis stage, had progressed to 82% on Joby's side and 75% on the FAA's side. Stage 5, the show and verify stage, had also already begun, reaching 15% on Joby's side and 6% on the FAA's side. Therefore, based on the official figures, it may still be a little early to say that Joby has completely passed Stage 4. However, from an investor's perspective, what matters is not simply whether the stage has been officially completed. What may be more important is how much risk the company has actually reduced, and how a strategic partner evaluates that risk. The establishment of this joint venture between Toyota and Joby carries strong significance in this regard. Its name is the Joby Toyota Aero Manufacturing Preparation Company. The purpose of this company is to establish the foundation for commercial production of the Joby S4 electric air taxi, improve productivity, quality, and cost, and prepare for future production expansion. The ownership structure was also announced as Toyota 51% and Joby 49%. In other words, Toyota is no longer merely providing advice, it has entered the actual manufacturing preparation structure. Toyota is not merely a financial investor. Toyota has invested in Joby for a long time and has shared actual manufacturing know-how with Joby, including the Toyota production system, manufacturing process development, tooling design, and production quality management. In 2024, Toyota announced an additional $500 million investment in Joby, and the purpose of this funding was to support Joby's FAA certification and commercial production. The terms of this investment also included plans for a manufacturing alliance for commercial production. This brings us to an important key question. If Toyota had viewed Joby's chances of FAA certification as low, would it really have created a joint venture at this point? Aircraft production in particular is far more complex than automobile production and carries much greater regulatory risk. Therefore, if Toyota had judged FAA certification to be uncertain, creating a manufacturing preparation company with a majority ownership structure and moving forward with building a commercial production foundation could have been a very burdensome choice. Toyota's characteristic style is not an aggressive tendency to go all in like Tesla. Instead, it is a style of putting money, people, and production technology into high-probability future options over a long period of time, and then entering in a much bigger way once they are validated. For that reason, the establishment of this joint venture can be seen as a strong signal that Toyota has judged Joby's certification risk to have fallen significantly compared to the past. In particular, Joby completed the SR3 audit with the FAA in the first quarter of 2026. The SR3 audit is the third of 4 major reviews in the FAA certification process, and it is an important preliminary procedure that checks whether the data and test results the FAA must verify in the final testing stage meet the FAA's expectations. This does not yet mean that Stage 4 has been officially completed, but it does mean that a key foundation has been laid for moving into Stage 5 and TIA testing. It is also important that Joby's first FAA-conforming aircraft flew for TIA. An FAA-conforming aircraft is not just a simple prototype, but an aircraft built according to approved design and part standards so that it can be used for FAA certification testing. Joby explained that this aircraft is the first in its conforming aircraft fleet to support TIA testing, which means Joby has secured the physical foundation needed to enter actual FAA credit testing and the final verification stage. Simply put, it means Joby has begun flying a real certification aircraft built to the standards that the FAA can use for actual certification testing. Therefore, this Toyota joint venture should not be viewed simply as manufacturing cooperation news. This announcement is a signal that Joby is preparing to move into commercial production after certification, and it can be interpreted as meaning that Toyota trusts Joby's FAA certification path enough to take part in that preparation. In other words, Toyota's establishment of the joint venture is not an announcement that Joby has already officially passed FAA Stage 4. However, it is a strong signal that Toyota sees the remaining risks in Stage 4 as manageable and highly evaluates the possibility of Joby entering Stage 5 and TIA. From the perspective of Toyota, which is especially conservative, it could have waited until certification was fully completed before taking action. However, Toyota launched a manufacturing joint venture at a point when Stage 4 had not yet been officially completed. This can be interpreted as meaning that Toyota sees Joby's chances of certification success as considerably high, and that it judged commercial production preparations needed to begin in advance before certification was completed rather than after. From an investor's perspective, this point is very important. Once FAA certification is completed, what Joby will need is not simply a good aircraft, but the ability to produce aircraft repeatedly, reliably, in accordance with certification standards, and in a cost-efficient manner. Toyota entering through a joint venture is an event that reduces one of Joby's biggest challenges, manufacturing risk. Ultimately, this announcement shows that Joby's business stage is changing. Joby is no longer merely an eVTOL developer waiting for certification. It is now transitioning into an aircraft manufacturing company preparing for commercial production after FAA certification together with Toyota. To summarize, Toyota's Joby joint venture is a strong signal that Toyota sees a very high possibility that Joby will pass Stage 4 and move into Stage 5 and TIA. In particular, given that the completion of the SR3 audit, the TIA flight of the FAA-conforming aircraft, and Toyota's establishment of a majority-owned joint venture all came together at the same time, Joby's certification risk can be interpreted as having fallen much lower than in the past. Please subscribe and like. Thank you.